So let's get started.
Hi.
Well, first and foremost, hello, welcome Wildcats. We are so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining us this morning really, for our online career webinar hosted by the University of Arizona Alumni Career and Professional Development Lab. So we're so grateful to have you all here with us today. I'm Rebecca Detterman. I'm a project specialist for the Recent Alumni and Student Engagement for our Alumni Career Lab, and I'm broadcasting live from Tucson, Arizona. So hello, it is very warm today, but I'm so excited to announce today's webinar, which is how to use and maintain a successful network with Miss Tara Bisson.
Good job.
I practiced it so many times, and I'll explain a little bit more about Tara in a moment. But this webinar is part of a free alumni career webinar series from the Alumni Career Lab that provides monthly conversations with experts about a variety of industry and professional development topics. Today's presentation is being recorded and it will be archived on the Alumni Association website for you to access on demand. You can find a link to that and more at arizonaalumni.com/careers. We're also streaming this live on Facebook on the University of Arizona Alumni Association page. So go like our page if you haven't already done so. Questions are welcomed anytime during today's event. Type them into the chat box on the right side of your screen whenever you are thinking of them, and Tara will be able to answer your questions periodically throughout the webinar. If you're on Facebook today, please type those comments in that comment section as well, and we'll be able to post them within our webinar. So before we get started, a little bit about Tara. Tara Bisonson, got it right, graduated from the University of Arizona in 2013 with a BA in political science as a member and was a member of our women's track and field team. Tara accepted a position as a real estate legal secretary upon graduation with the intention of attending law school. Her work in real estate pushed her to pursue a new career in commercial real estate, focusing on project management. And just recently, she made another career transition within commercial real estate to focus more on interior design. Welcome, Tara.
Hi, thanks. Appreciate you guys inviting me to join you today. And I'm super excited to just talk a little bit about maintaining a network and creating one and seeing what kind of questions we get that roll in. So
I'm so excited to have you. And I know that we've talked a little bit about building a network and all of those great pieces about it. And so you really have a lot of insight and expertise on this, which is great. Before we get too far into this, I do want to pull up the PowerPoint that you prepared, which is so great. It has a lot of good content for us to follow. And I want to share that with everybody as well. So let's just share that. Wonderful. I believe it's working. Great. So Tara, just to get started real quick, how did you find your network? I mean, you're in so many different things and you're really well known within Dallas. And so how did you first find that network, and was it industry specific, or did you find it through your community? How did you do that?
Sure. The way that I found my network was threefold, and it's three different recommendations that I would make to you upcoming seniors about to graduate or as recent grads. And the first is to use your Arizona alumni. There are a lot of Arizona alumni like myself who are still engaged and want to give back. And quite frankly, it's really exciting whenever we have seniors or recent grads reach out to us. So by all means, do that. It's exactly what I did. I started out, I moved to a new market after graduation, so I really didn't have a basis of a network at all. So I got onto LinkedIn and I searched by market, which was Dallas-Fort Worth. I searched by Arizona, University of Arizona alumni, and I searched by my industry, which was commercial real estate. So, and up comes an entire, 5 pages of Arizona alumni within the city of Dallas within commercial real estate. So I remember I bought a $75 Starbucks gift card and I just started inviting people to coffee. Pick their brain to hear about how they got to where they are in their career. targeted more of that seasoned veteran group, 15 plus years out, just because for me, I wanted to hear about their career trajectory and the steps that they took and to really learn from their experience. But it was a great start. Honestly, once you do that, you start to recognize some familiar faces on Saturdays at the viewing party and, during football season, during basketball season. And it was just a great first way to sort of expand on my professional network. The second thing I would recommend is joining professional industry related organizations. So for commercial real estate, we have a lot of friends here in Dallas who are in nursing, who are in accounting, who are in sales, and all these other sort of businesses that have a lot of professional networks as well. So I researched a lot about what I wanted to do and, which professional industry organizations were really within my niche of real estate. And I settled on 2, and I just started to go. I started to go to events, panelist discussions, just to meet other people. Once they start seeing out and they start recognizing your name, all of a sudden you're being, recommended or nominated for these committees and board positions to really get the most out of it. So can't recommend that enough. And then the third was a personal group, something that I wanted to do to sort of feed that personal interest outside of work, which for me was women's networking and philanthropy. So I ended up being very actively involved in a women's group here in Dallas with a philanthropic aspect of it. We fundraised a lot for local Dallas charities, and I ended up holding leadership positions there as well. But for you, that could be something as easy as I want to have a social sort of intramural sports league outside of my job and my professional networks. It's a great way to meet new people, and no contact is a bad contact. Even if on the surface you can't really tell how it might be related to your job. You really don't know where your career is going to go or who's going to end up being a client, who's going to end up being a boss. So any sort of networking you can do is really great.
That's awesome. So what I'm hearing is you really, started with your Arizona community. You were a recent grad, you moved to Dallas, you made friends, but then you also made sure that you used those Arizona connections to be within your industry, and then you really got into the community, which is really great. And I'm sure that doing something philanthropic and being able to give back to the community also was very reassuring to you too, to be there and put those roots down. So I love that, it was threefold and that you were able to really do multiple things with your network. And as you were building this network, how did you really establish yourself within it? What did you do to make sure that you were known and that everyone knew who Tara was as you were going through this?
Yeah. So, really, you need to show up. You need to go to events. A lot of times with these professional networking organizations, there are annual dues, and you don't want to pay $500 a year just to have something on your resume. That's really, once you really get into your career, it's a lot about who you know. And so showing up is just half the battle. It's more than half the battle. It's 80%. So what I did is in 2 of the real estate organizations that I was in, they have what a lot of times you'll hear as a YP, a young professionals group within that organization. And what I did was I happy hour and I made a buddy, and we were like, okay, hey, you want to go to that panelist thing next week? Let's go to next month's volunteering event. And then you sort of build up feeling confident going, and eventually you're just going to meet so many people that you don't necessarily need a buddy. You are just good to go and you feel confident about it and you know enough people. But it really took that initial sort of let me find a buddy. But that's anybody that's going to one of those initial kickoff happy hours for a young professionals group, everybody's going to be in the same boat that you are. They're probably a little nervous. They are there to meet people. They're there to build on their career. So just know that everybody's feeling the same way as you, and all will be good. And once you become that regular, I think it's really important to volunteer yourself for things. You'll hear of opportunities within committees. We have, if it's a big fundraising event that the organization holds annually, maybe it's an opportunity to serve on, the silent auction committee, or to be reaching out to other businesses for sponsorships. Once you sort of show that you're going above and beyond just being an actual member within these, you can really, people start to recognize your name. They start to, recognize your face at events. They start to recommend you to be on positions. And that's really where you can kind of create your own. But that also gives you that expansion within the organization, that it starts to flow for your work. So, hey, Tara's in interior design. I have a project coming up and I worked with her on that committee. Let me give her a call. So there's just a lot of different things you can get out of being really active that you're not going to get if you only just, pay your annual dues and maybe go to that one big event every year. So that would be my biggest recommendation.
And that actually leads into my next question, because I was really curious about how you were able to, one, you established yourself, right? You said you went to these events, but then how do you continue to make that network strong? And how are you going to make sure that what you're doing is going to allow you to be successful in all the different facets of life? And so how were you able to really, have a strong and successful network that was able to really prosper for you?
Yeah. So I think that's such a big piece of networking. I think a lot of people only view it as business, where I think that the most successful, I think the people, especially in sales, people that are the most successful in sales are those that are really relationship based. And if you truly care about these people as people and just want to get to know them, they're going to be so much more likely to just want to get to know you, and, really want to just be a part of your life and in your circle. So in addition to just, being it's always going a little bit above and beyond. I would say whenever I'm at a networking event and I get business cards, following up the next day with them and saying, hey, it was such a pleasure to meet you last night. Heard your daughter was a University of Arizona alumni. So am I. That's great. Go Cats. Just something little and personal goes such a long way, as opposed to meeting them, taking their card and never really reaching out to them again. I would say probably 95% of people our age and recent grads, that's what they do. So you will really stand out above and beyond if you are communicating and checking in. Right now during COVID, that's a huge reason to check in with people in your network, see how they're doing. Are they staying safe? How's their family? And I think going that extra mile to show that you just care about them as a person and in your network, it goes a very long way to show who you are. So definitely do that. That's only going to strengthen it. You never know where your next opportunity is going to come from, especially if you're kind of, cultivating your network as a means to get a new job or maybe have a career transition. Really keeping it strong is a great way to do that, because you don't know if it's going to come off of a job board, or maybe it's going to come off of somebody from that committee who says, hey, I worked with Tara on this and she's great. And you heard you have an opening. So keeping it strong is very important.
I love that. That's just so wise to really, keep all those things in check and make sure that you're, constantly being active in it. I think it's not something that you can just, like you said a few slides ago, sign up and just go to it, right? You have to actively stay in it. And so that actually leads me into the like a tip that you would give recent graduates or maybe graduating seniors as they're transitioning in this new world. You had one mentioned COVID. You've already, kind of talked about your business cards, but those big pieces of staying in touch. And so can you maybe give us a short story or an anecdote of how you staying in touch allows you to be successful?
Yeah. I always want to be top of mind for anybody from a business standpoint. I think that's really, it's part of what I do. But I think a great example of staying in touch is honestly how I got my current job. Rebecca gave a little bit of an intro at the beginning about how I got to where I am now, and coming from political science background to real estate might not make a whole lot of sense. So let me backtrack a little bit. I originally wanted to go to law school, like a lot of people with political science degrees do. And I decided I wanted to sit out my first year after graduation because I wanted to work underneath a real estate attorney. And I wanted to, just confirm that that's what I wanted to do. Law school is a big investment. And I quickly learned that I loved what our clients were doing in real estate development so much more than what I was doing. So that's how I kind of made that pivot. And so since about 2014, I had been working in real estate development and mostly project management, really just managing high-rise multifamily apartment buildings is what I started out in. And then I moved into more commercial office buildings. So one of my big projects that I had when I was at Jones Lang LaSalle, JLL, it's a global real estate company, was for a client, Mercedes-Benz Financial Services. They had a big headquarters project out here in Dallas, and I was the project manager on that. And I had a really successful project. I had great vendors working on that project, and the ultimate end product was absolutely beautiful. But I worked so closely with the vendor who I now work for on that project, and it was so successful. And because we stayed in touch, because we worked together so closely and really maintained not only that professional networking aspect, but also that personal, how are you, relationship sales. It really came into, we have this job available and it seems like something you'd be really good at. So now I've moved into more of the furniture and interior design side of commercial real estate. So it just shows you don't know where that opportunity is going to come from, and how staying in touch is so important. So I can't really hone in on that bullet point enough. And I think that the next tip I would give is to not be afraid. Do not be afraid to go to events. Do not be afraid to show up. I remember I was going to one of my very first events. It was right after I moved to Dallas. Me and one of my best friends, Caitlin, who also went to U of A and came to Dallas, we were going to go to a happy hour for the women's networking organization that I ultimately became the president of. It was one of our very first events together. Remember, I was in the Uber and I was getting out, and she texted me and said, "Hey, I actually have to work late. I'm so sorry I can't come." And I'm literally getting out of the Uber and I'm going into this event. And it was a moment of panic. Like, you are going to walk into this room of 75 women and not know anybody. But you know what? I met probably 5 or 6 ladies that were on the board that night. And ever since then, I never felt nervous about going to another event with that organization by myself, because I went and it forced me to talk to people. It forced me to kind of get out of my comfort zone. And kind of you look back and realize, why was I nervous? Because everybody there was in the same. I think that would be my next tip. Don't let that prevent you from showing up, because still get so much out of it. If I would have gotten back in the car that night, who knows, maybe I wouldn't have ever gone back. So can't give that piece of advice enough either.
Oh, yes. That is definitely the scariest thing, right? Walking into a room where you know nobody, and then, you're able to now become president of that organization, which is an incredible example of just how important it is to just really take that step. So thank you so much for sharing that. Before we get to some questions, or actually before we get to some takeaways, I wanted to see if we had any questions. So let's check a few of our other spots. So it looks like a lot of people are saying hello, 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 which is great. So thank you and hello to everyone. And then looks like we're all good here, except we do have one based off of that last story of just, trying to figure out becoming the taking that step and getting out of the car. I wanted to go back to when you had talked about your business card. And can you give us a little bit about how you were able to, one, give your business card and then follow up, and how that all worked out?
Yeah. So with at least my job, I've always been in a situation where I've needed a business card, whether that's to just give at the beginning of a meeting at work or at events. Always bring some with you. Tip number 1, it is the worst feeling when somebody's like, "Oh, let's exchange cards," and they whip out your card and you're like, "Oh, actually, let me just email you because I forgot to bring any." Always bring some. You just never know. I always keep a little stack in my wallet at any time. But I would say more often than not, it's not because there is a clear and concrete need at the end of any conversation. It's not that it ends with, "You know what, I have a project for you. Here's my card," or, "Hey, I want to follow up with you about this or that." A lot of times it can just end with, "Hey, it was great to know you. I would love to keep in touch." And that's my line. And here's my card. And, they might do the same thing too. And then the next day, maybe you set aside 20 minutes in the morning and you go through all your business cards that you received the night before. And it's just a quick follow-up email. Hey, it was such a pleasure to meet you last night at this event. Here's my work email. Would love to stay in touch. Hope everything's going great. It could be something that simple and it really makes you stand out. I hope that answers your question, but that's, I mean, honestly, you don't need to have a reason to give somebody a card other than you just want to keep in touch. If you do have a, great business opportunity, then props, that's awesome. But, you really just can use it as a, I want to keep in touch, sort of aspect.
And then we did get another question too, which you're right. Using your card just to build that first initial step is great. But do you have any strategies to making networking opportunities and conversations more impactful?
Do I have any, say that again?
Strategies to making networking opportunities or those conversations more impactful.
Yeah. I mean, let's use the example that we're at a professional industry event just to sort of frame this. That is where I typically go in with something in mind, something that I want to get out of it, whether I want to meet 5 new people or I know that this specific person RSVP'd and I want to meet that person. I typically have some sort of strategy in mind or something that I want to get out of that event. So when you're having that conversation with whoever it is, maybe have that strategy in mind. You want to learn about, let's say, I really want to get to know this person because I know that they work at a company I'm interested in working in. So maybe like, hey, how long have you been at that company, by the way? I've heard really great things. Awesome. What projects are you working on right now? You can kind of stream it to sort of get what you would like to get out of that conversation, but it's really hard to do that if you don't go into it with that strategy in mind, with that goal in mind. Otherwise, the conversation can just sort of flow, which is also good. But then when you get out of it, you're like, oh, shoot, I didn't get that piece of information that I wanted or that I wish I would have asked. So I would always try to sort of plan out who I want to talk to. Maybe it's 5 new people. Maybe it's somebody that I've met before and I heard that, they're working with this person now and I want to get introduced to them. It is a little bit of a strategy thing. That sounds like a lot of pressure. It's not anything that you need to do right away. And eventually you just get pretty naturally good at it. So don't stress about that. But it is always helpful to review the RSVP list and kind of, maybe do some LinkedIn research on who they are so that you are prepared. I think that's always a really good thing to do.
I love the whole piece about research, right? It's going in prepared and wanting a certain, going towards something, right? You're setting a goal of meeting those people or trying to learn more about maybe the organization, but the research is really going to give you a great foundation to make those strategies successful. So that is a great tip. Well, I think it's good for us to kind of move on towards our key takeaways. And so if you could just, give us, what are the 3 big things that you would like us to know about leaving today?
Yeah, so the first would be join organizations that match your interests. Personally, professionally, I've gotten into some organizations before where, I like it was something that a lot of my friends were doing, or, because I was in this women's networking organization that maybe I should be in this other one that a lot of women were in. And you know what, you really just kind of have to go with what you want to do because you're going to be spending time doing this and time is something we don't get back. So you want to make sure that it is something that truly matches your interests, especially if you're going to try to be on committees and board positions. You want it to be worthwhile. You want it to be something that is stressful. You want it to be has the people that you really want to network with based on your job. So do a lot of research on that. You can, and again, you can always show up to the first 2. And if you don't like it, you're not committed. You don't have to go again. Try to research that a little bit and really try to find what it is that you like. And when it comes to the personal stuff, you can always make that fun. Like I said, sports organizations. And we have this great club here in Dallas called like the Pint Runners, where like they go for a 3-mile run and then they go get a beer. There's so many personal interest groups, and it's always really fun and great way to meet people. Number 2, stay in touch with your network. We went over that a bunch, but it's the best way to make yourself stand out. You don't want to be that person where you meet somebody one time at an event and then you guys never talk again, or they don't remember who you are. You don't remember their name and you meet them the second time. So try to stay in touch. You'll get the most out of it if you do. And then always keep your eyes open for your opportunity, because your network is there. And if you have that relationship with them and you've kept in touch, you'd be surprised at how many people want to go above and beyond to help you find that next job. So those would be my 3 key takeaways from today.
Oh, well, Tara, thank you. Thank you so, so much for all of your great wisdom and all of those great tips of just how to really build our networks and, like you said, maintain them and make them successful. For all of our guests today, I do want to just let you know of a few other things. That you're always welcome to join the Bear Down Network. That is also another network that we have available for you for just Wildcats. It's exclusively for us to stay connected and for you to be able to ask those questions, or maybe find people in your area too. So as Tara had mentioned, taking someone to coffee, that's a great place to start too if you don't really know anyone in your area or you're hoping to build it a little bit more. And I also encourage you to follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn and all of the wonderful different places that we have for you to be successful. So Tara, thank you again so much for being here today.
And if anybody, if there is a way, I don't know if a follow-up goes out after this, but if you do get reached out to by anybody wanting to touch base with me, feel free to give my contact information. I would love to chat with anybody.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone who is joining us today. And we will be in contact soon with more information. As always, go to our website. You can get a copy of this recording as well if you've missed it or you want to hear more or rehear stories from Tara as well. And thank you again for everyone being here. Have a great rest of your day. Bear down.
Bye.